Well, welcome everyone to our Spreadsheet Server Learn to Use Your Silver Licenses and Go Beyond the GL into Job Costing webinar. My name is Caitlin Gill. I'm the Director of Solutions Enablement here at Global Software, and I'm joined by Henry Ferguson of Viewpoint and Emily McAndrew. So we're very excited to walk you through this meeting today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Caitlin. This is Henry, and appreciate everybody setting some time aside to join us. This is an exciting, been a very exciting partnership to be a part of over the last year. We had a lot of happy joint customers and excited new customers at our user conference last week with Global, and this is a model that Viewpoint really hopes to do more of, where there are certain areas of functionality and expertise where there are clear market leaders, Global Software, Spreadsheet Server being a great example of that. And if we can form a partnership and a secure connection, data connection into our software, and you can use Excel and their powerful tools to do what you're trying to do anyways, it just seems like a better mousetrap, a win-win for our customers, and just really appreciate the opportunity to do this with the folks at Global. So I'll step aside and look forward to participating and listening in on the conference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Henry. Everybody, I'm Emily McAndrew, and I'm Global Software Senior Business Development Representative, and I've worked closely with Viewpoint users to get implemented with their Silver and also educating on our additional functionality. So, and then Caitlin, you heard speaking at the beginning of the call. She is, to give a little bit of background on her, Caitlin is our Director of Solutions Enablement and has over 12 years experience in product management, training, and implementation. And she works closely with our customer base to help get them up and running. Caitlin is a certified Microsoft specialist and is currently working towards her Master in Business Administration at UNC Chapel Hill. So we're going to kick things over to Caitlin and go ahead and do a little Silver license training.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily, and thank you, Henry, for that amazing introduction. We were very excited to be at the Viewpoint conference, and it was so nice to meet so many of our customers, hear so many success stories, and introduce some functionality that some folks didn't know existed with the Silver license. So it actually gave me a lot of great talking points today for this webinar, just showing some things that are certainly there and available to you with your Silver license that you may not be aware of. So we're going to start with that, our Silver license training, and then we'll move into some additional functionality if you were to upgrade to a Gold or Platinum license, which there was a lot of excitement around as well. So the Silver license kind of gives you a little bit of a taste of the possibilities and how to do real-time Excel reporting. And then once you get that taste, it seems that most people want to do real-time Excel reporting for everything. So that's where the Gold and Platinum licenses come into play. But we're going to start off with Silver today. So I'm just going to transition over to a Silver license workbook. So for those of you that have your Silver licenses installed and have started playing around with them, this workbook probably looks pretty familiar to you. For those of you that haven't, when you do install your Silver license, this is the workbook that you will receive. So this workbook has a lot of training built into it, which is great, and that's all located here on the first tab of the workbook. So you've got some pretty detailed instructions about how to use the workbook, including an instructional video that you can go back through to highlight some of the things we went through today. We've got a user manual, and this is going to be actually our Spreadsheet Server complete user manual. So if you do look through, I think, the 497 pages of that, you might notice that there are some things in there that don't look too familiar, and because it is the complete manual for the Spreadsheet Server Gold and Platinum license as well. So there's a lot of stuff in there that does not come with the Silver license, just as an FYI. Most importantly, our email to our help desk and our help desk number. So I want all Silver users to be aware that the help desk is available to you. We have a 2-hour callback policy, and we are awake and ready to answer your questions 24/7, 365 days a year. So anytime you guys have a questions, we're there to answer, and we service and support you from our North American headquarters, which are in Raleigh, North Carolina. our Seattle office and our London office, our EMEA headquarters. So we have lots of different time zones that are working in your favor to provide you with support. So what I'm going to do today is just go through the Silver workbook piece by piece so you guys can see all of the things that are available. We'll go through some tips and tricks that you can utilize here when you want to build out and expand on this workbook as well. So we're going to start on page 1. That's how I always like to start training. Let's just start at the beginning, walk before we run. And so in this workbook, the two things to me that kind of stand out when I initially open it, if you're a colors person, are these bright green and bright yellow cells. And this is where you're going to enter your data. So in this workbook, you've got 6 reports. You've got a balance sheet, you've got a balance sheet analysis, an income statement, a comparative income statement, a statement of cash flow, and you've got a nice handy trial balance here. Now, all of these reports, once you enter your information into them, will be live and dynamic. So you'll notice on the setup screen, if I change the period here from 5 to, let's say, 6, every single report is now updating to reflect period 6. So on our income statement, it's now going to show me data for the period. You'll notice that that's a 0 here because I actually have the wrong year selected. So I want to make sure to change that as well. Make sure you have the right year listed in here. I'm going to select 2012. You'll see that little wheel spinning. So when I come back over to my income statement, there we go. Now we have some data. But everything in this report will be live and dynamic when you enter your data into it, which brings me back to these bright green and bright yellow cells. So this is the first point of contact on the instructions tab. This is where you need to enter your data. So obviously when we install these when we install your Spreadsheet Server licenses and give you these workbooks, we don't know your chart of accounts. We don't know all of your account numbers. So you do have to do a little bit of work here. It's not painful, I promise. You're just basically entering in your account numbers into these green and yellow cells. And when you do that, your workbooks are going to light up with live data, just like a Christmas tree. So that's the first thing that you're going to do here on the setup screen, is you're going to enter in the year that you'd like to report on. You're going to enter in your period that you'd like to report on, the company, and then your GL account parts. And basically all this means down here is that if you'd like to see in your report, let's say on the income statement, a description that says account, so you know that you're entering in accounts into the green cells, that's what this GL account part section over here means. So it just basically means that it's going to say account where you enter the account, it's going to say department where you enter the department, and then if you have additional account parts, you're going to just enter in what you'd like those to be called here. Okay, so back on the setup screen, you've got these green and yellow cells. This is where you enter in your user-specific values. So the first thing we do is we enter in the year, the period, the company. One of the big questions that we had at the user conference was, can I do consolidations? Can I look at multiple companies? Can I look at companies column by column and then a consolidated column? Absolutely. So while I have just one company number identified here, if I change this to an asterisk, you'll notice that little wheel starts spinning around again because Spreadsheet Server is thinking. That's what that wheel means. So if I go back over to my income statement, you can now see it's been adjusted to look at data for all companies. So if I drill down into one of these numbers, another neat feature that we'll go into in further detail by selecting either the drill down on the right-click menu of your mouse or the drill down on your ribbon, if you do have multiple companies, you will see those when you drill down. So you can see that I'm looking at company 1, 2, 101, and 102. And then in the drill down window, I can drag the company field up here into the gray area, and it's going to group by company. Pretty cool stuff. So we'll go through all aspects of drill down here in just a second, but I just wanted to make you guys aware on the setup screen when you are entering in the company number, it does not have to be a single company. It can be a wild card, it can be a single company, and you can also get into some of the other format options that you have, the syntaxes that we're going to go through next, to use multiple companies, a list of companies, a range of companies, things of that nature. Okay, so just to review, going back through our color key, the green and yellow cells are where you enter your information. So on the setup screen, you'll notice there are green cells. On each of the tabs, They might be hidden when you initially open up the report, but you'll notice there are these little plus signs up in the top left window. You just expand those, open them right up, and you've got yellow cells and green cells. So this is where you're going to enter in your account numbers for all of the line items on your balance sheet. And in the yellow cells, this is where you can enter in things like the format key, the period that you'd like to report on, the year, etc. Now, one little trick when you're entering information here is that in the yellow cells, these are tied back to the setup screen. So you'll notice if I click in cell F6, if I look in the formula bar, it says setup C7. So if I change this, let's say I wanted to change this to look at 2011, it's going to break that link. So now if I change anything on this setup screen, it's not going to reflect my balance sheet because I've made a change here. So now this is static. So just make sure if you do make changes that you recognize that it's not going to link back to the setup screen anymore, which is fine. It doesn't have to. Just want to make you aware that that is what happens. Okay. So let's go back to our instructions tab. And well, actually, each tab of these, each report in the workbook is going to have these green and yellow cells. You'll notice on some of the other tabs, like the balance sheet analysis, some of the cells are in white. So some of our asset accounts are actually being carried over from the balance sheet, so you do not have to re-enter those. You only enter information into the green cells. Income statement, same thing. All of the cells here will be green. And then comparative income statement, just like the balance sheet analysis, most of the, I think if not all of the line items on this report will carry over from the income statement. We have our cash flow statement. Again, we've got a couple cells that are green there that you will have to enter. And then we have our trial balance. So you'll notice when you open up the trial balance, it's less than exciting, just one line item here looking at all activity, but you'll notice it's zeroed out, so that's good. It means I'm balanced here. But if I want to look at the debits and credits on this report and I actually want to see a detailed trial balance, that's where this expand and collapse row feature comes in on your silver license. So when I hit expand GL row, what that does is it's going to expand out the report to show me all activity. So it's going to give me detailed line items on my report to where I can look at everything. So let's get back over to the instructions tab. We're going to move down to part 2, which is the format key. So another big question that we had at the user conference was how do you look at information outside of just by the period? How do you look at information including the beginning balance? How do we look at quarterly data? And that's where this format key comes in. So you have some default formats that are set in the reports. So for example, income statement, we typically look at data by period. So we have it set to period, PER. But you'll notice there's a little drop-down menu here. So instead of looking at data by the period, if I wanted to see it by the quarter, I could adjust this here to select quarter. And you'll notice it's going to update my report. It's going to tell me I'm out of balance. That's not good because there's no quarter 6. So we want to make sure to change the period here, and I'm just going to change it on the setup screen. So we'll say I want to look at quarter 1, so we'll just change that to 1, and when I come back over, you'll notice that we're back in shape over here. So I've got my data, it's pulling in data for quarter 1. So you have these different options, and to go through what they are, period is going to show you a balance for the current period. Quarter is for the quarter that's stated. We've got daily quarter, we have year to date, which is going to show you the year to date numbers excluding the beginning balance, and we have life to date, which is going to show you the beginning balance, well, the period activity including the beginning balance. So this is going to be used in your balance sheet reporting. And then we have a range. So the range option would be when you wanted to look at a range of periods maybe that don't fall into a perfect quarter. So periods 1 through 6, 3 through 5. And so you can use that range option there. And all of those descriptions are located right here on the format key. So it's going to tell you for each one of these formats what your options are. And again, you can adjust those in the report. So moving right along, the next option we have is our syntax key. So this is where we would, this is what's going to tell you how you can enter in your companies, your cost centers, your account numbers, and all of the different options that you have. And you have a lot. So one of the key features of Spreadsheet Server is the ad hoc analysis capability it gives you, the ability to slice and dice your companies, cost centers, accounts the way it makes the most sense for you. So we'll go through the syntaxes here, and then I'll show you a couple examples in the workbook. So single value, that's pretty straightforward. That's just entering in a single account number. I'm going to zoom in here because this is a little small, and I bet it's even harder to see for you guys. So the next option is a value list. So let's say you wanted to look at several accounts that don't fall into a perfect range. Well, you can utilize this value list option, which basically allows you to identify any accounts or, let's say, companies that you like. You just enclose those in brackets and separate them by commas. So if I wanted to look at accounts 1,000, 1,010, 2,000, 2010, I would just type a bracket, opening bracket, the account number, comma, the account number, comma, the account number, close bracket. So you can use as many of those as you'd like. You can make really super long lists to your heart's content, do whatever you'd like to do, but that's how you would use non-sequential account numbers. Third option is a range. If you're using a single range, you just separate it by a period. If you're using multiple ranges, again, you would need to use those brackets and separate by commas. So you can use two ranges, just include them in brackets and have a comma between the two ranges. If you're using an exclusion, you would identify the range in brackets with a comma and a forward slash and the account that you'd like to exclude. We had a question about using multiple exclusions. I had a couple questions about that at the user conference, and that's certainly an option. Again, you would just separate by a comma and then a forward slash and then the second account you'd like to exclude. So you can certainly use multiple exclusions if you'd like. If you want to look at everything, you just type in an asterisk. That's going to be a wildcard. It's going to retrieve a balance from, in this case, all accounts. And then we also have what's called a mask. And so if you wanted to look at all accounts that begin with 41 as an example, you would include the beginning characters and then the asterisk. So in this case, I'm looking at all accounts that begin with 41. I could say I want to look at all accounts that begin with 413. And it's going to show me everything that begins with those numbers. So to showcase this in practice, I'm going to come over to my income statement, scroll down here, and you'll see some of the options that I've used. So for my progress billings, I've used all accounts that begin with 4. We'll just zoom in there so you can see that. For T&M billings, I've used 2 single accounts separated by a comma. And then for undefined other, I've got this crazy long list looking at, let's see, about 10 different accounts that don't fall into any specific range. I've just separated them by commas. Another important thing to point out here is that you can change anything in this report. So progress billings, that might make no sense to you at all, and it might not fall under what you call construction income. I mean, honestly, you might not even have a line item called construction income on your income statement. And you'll notice one of the great things about this being Excel is that it doesn't have to, this description doesn't have to stay. So I can delete construction income, I can just call this income. If I wanted to delete T&M billings and call this C&M billings, because I'm so creative to think of that new description, you can change any of these descriptions. You can also make this more detailed. So if I have another line item that I define under my first income section of my income statement, all I'd have to do is just copy this row and insert copied cells. It's going to add a new line, and I can make another entry here. So we'll say this line I want to include all accounts that begin with 41. So it's going to add that. You'll notice that my balance updated, and the reason that it updated is because I copied that line down, which copied this formula down. So you need to make sure that there's a formula in the cell that you are updating. So make sure to copy a line from one of the other lines on the income statement or balance sheet or whatever report you're working with that contains a formula. And the same thing goes for columns. So if I wanted to copy a column, scroll up to the top here. If I wanted to take column E, copy that onto column F, and maybe change this instead of looking at company 1 to looking at all companies, I can change that to an asterisk, and this can be my consolidated column. And I can change the description from Acme Construction to consolidated. So you can build out this report any way that you'd like, and you can change the descriptions. You just need to make sure that you're copying the rows and the columns that are already there. So one of the features that you do not have with a Silver license is the ability to start from scratch and build a report. So you do need to work with the report format that's there and copy columns over, copy rows into the report using the formulas that are set up in the report for you. Okay, so moving right along, after we get through the syntax area, we've got setting up the workbook, and this is just going to tell you for each worksheet exactly how you set it up. So I've kind of gone through some of these features already, but I'm just going to go through them again so you have that kind of stuck in your memory. So you have your worksheet 1 set up, and it's going to tell you, just like I told you earlier, find those glaring green cells in the setup worksheet. You're going to enter your company information and enter your GL parts information. So just to review, you would enter in the company you'd like to report on, company name if you'd like that displayed, and then for your GL account parts, in my case I have just account and department, you might have more, you want to enter those descriptions, and those will be used on the different reporting sheets. Worksheet 2, the balance sheet. We have the first instruction, which is find the green cells in column A, pretty hard to miss those, and then enter your corresponding accounts for each line item. It will also tell you some of these accounts will flow into other areas of the workbook. So you just go over to your balance sheet, you'll see that little plus sign, you want to expand that row, and then you'll have each one of your line items that you can enter your accounts into. And you can also, again, adjust any of these descriptions to make this your own. Worksheet number 3, the balance sheet analysis. This time you'll find the green cells in columns A and B. So we've got our asset and our liability accounts. You're going to find the green cells in A and B. Some of the cells will flow over, and those will be the cells in white, so you don't need to adjust those. And then your balance sheet's going to calculate all these nice ratios for you, and you have this nice balance sheet analysis you can utilize. Moving on to the income statement, again, find the green cells in column A, enter your account numbers. So you're going to receive the income statement. It will look something like this. You need to expand that little plus sign, expand the other plus sign if you want to adjust anything on the top columns, and enter your account numbers. We've got our cash flow statement. Again, you're just going to have green cells to enter into column A here. So there'll just be a couple. A lot of these are going to flow over from the other 2 reports. And then our trial balance. So the trial balance is going to be the last report here. And again, with the trial balance, when you hit that expand row option, it's now going to update for each individual line item. So this expand row is going to take this from a summary report to a detail report. One tricky thing on the expand row is you need to make sure that your cursor is in cell G21 when you hit expand. If it's in any other cell in the workbook, the expand is not going to work because there's no formula there. So Spreadsheet Server is looking for this GXL formula, and it needs that to expand the row. you'll notice that once the rows are expanded, all of these cells are in blue, and these are all drillable as well. So if I wanted to look at intercompany receivables, I can drill down on that by hitting the drill down button, and that does have a live formula in it, so it does allow me to drill down if I need to. And to collapse the row, it's just as easy as expanding it. You would just make sure to select one of the blue cells, so it's not going to collapse if you're in this first cell. You'd have to select one of the blue cells, hit collapse row, and it's going to take you back to that summary level report. Okay, so going into the features of Spreadsheet Server, this is the really fun part, guys. This features area is going to tell you how to slice up the data, how to drill down, how to do that expand and collapse row, do a multi-cell drill down. So there's a lot of fun stuff in here that you guys can play with. So the first thing, slicing up the data, this is taking us back to, if we remember on our syntax area, some of the different syntax options that we have. So what we're referring to here in this slicing up the data is using these different options, using single values, using value lists, using ranges, using wildcards. So basically you can utilize those for any segment in your account string. Just as an example, to show you guys, if I go back to my setup screen and I want to look at, instead of company 1, I want to see company 1 and company 101, I could say, okay, I want to look at company 1 and 101, close bracket, see that little wheel spinning, which means Spreadsheet Server is thinking, and then if I go over to my income statement, it's going to update now to look at company 1 and 101, so you're going to see that that's been updated here in my report, and I can drill down, take a look at that detail. Okay, so slicing up the data is just referring to all of the neat options you have to use these different syntaxes, and you can use those for any segment in your account string, the company, your account numbers, your cost centers. Again, even with the year and the period, you can use those range options to look at, let's say, a group of periods that don't fall into a quarter. Okay, drill down. A lot of neat features that are available to you through the drill down. So let's bring it back to the basics. Let's start from the beginning. Like I said before, walk before we run. So I'm going to go to my income statement, and we're just going to start off with a standard drill down. Now, there are two different ways that you can do a drill down. One is you can hit this magnifying glass, which is going to just do a regular drill down. It's going to show you the first level, which is the detailed account balances. The other option, other way to get there, multiple rows all going to the same place, is you can right-click, and you'll also have that drill down option indicated by the same magnifying glass on your right-click menu. So if I hit drill down here, it's going to take me to the same place. Now, you have two options for drilling down as far as how you view the information. So you'll notice when I go to my ribbon and I select drill down, there's actually a little arrow to the right here, and this is going to give me two drill down options, to a panel, which is what you just saw, or to a worksheet. So when I select panel, if I get that far, if you just select the first drill down option, it's automatically going to take you to a panel. But if I select panel, it's going to give me two options, results or journals. So this is going to allow me to drill straight to my journals instead of going through the results. If I select results, I also can get to journals by double-clicking on any of these cells. So if I double-click on any of these cells, you guys won't have this big, long list like I do. You'll just have one option to viewpoint journals, and that's going to take you down to the next level to look at journal entry detail. And you'll notice I can also get straight there just by selecting drill to journals. It's going to allow me to select that viewpoint journal option, and it's going to drill directly to the journal entry detail. Okay, but that's not the only way you can drill down. You have another option, which is drilling to a worksheet. So if I select drill to worksheet, what this does is it pushes my results right into Excel. So it creates this new tab in my report called Income Statement Drill Down. It's going to push that information to a nice, neat table. It's going to give me a timestamp that's going to say that I created this. It'll tell me the date and time. And it also gives me this nice link back to my originating cell. So that's going to take me back to the cell that I started with. So this is really useful if you need to send this off to someone else. So let's say you're in your office, someone's asking you a question, you've got this great tool, Spreadsheet Server, you can drill down, give them an answer, but you need to send them some detail just to kind of prove what you're saying. So you can just pop this out to another worksheet, send it off to them, and there you go, boom. They've got their answer, it's time stamped, date stamped, you're good to go. You can also, from the drill down panel, export data. So in the panel itself, you'll notice over here on the left side there are some options. And you have all of these options: copying to a clipboard, copying to Excel, exporting to CSV, PDF, RTF, creating a brand new workbook. So you do have the option of exporting from here as well, although I feel that exporting through the drill to worksheet option is much easier to do. You can certainly export from the panel also. Okay, another really neat option is doing what's called a multi-cell drill down. So let's go over to our balance sheet. And so in our balance sheet, in mine, I'm looking at year over year. So I'm looking at 2012 versus 2013. And I've added a new column here. I'm just going to delete that. And so if I wanted to compare 2012 and 2013, what I could do is do what we call a multi-cell drill down. So I can highlight both columns and drill down. And in the drill down window, it's going to show me data from 2012, from 2013, and it also creates this really awesome variance column to where I can compare the two. If I wanted to create a quick variance report, also very easy, I could drill down to a worksheet. So what this is going to do is, again, push that new tab out to Excel, show me both columns, give me my variance, so I have that for comparison. Okay, so with the drill down, again, lots of options. Your first level is your balance level drill down. Second level is your journal drill down. You can look at data in a panel or in a worksheet, and you can also do a multi-cell drill down. So that's going to allow you to select multiple columns. One little caveat on the multi-cell drill down, if you are drilling down on more than 2 columns, so let's say I'm going to copy this again. We'll just look at 2014. I don't think I have any data, but just for fun. Oh, look at that. If I select 3 columns and drill down, it's not going to give me a variance, obviously, because it doesn't know what to compare, but it will give me the detailed balances for all 3. Okay. So we've gone through expand and collapse row. You saw that on the trial balance. You can use that feature on any of your reports. So if you wanted to expand on a row on the income statement, you can do that here as well. So you can select really any cell with a formula and hit expand row, and it'll expand out here as well. We'll just select C&M billings, expand the row. It's going to create a detail row. It's going to give me that description as well. If I want to collapse, I can just hit collapse. It's going to take me back to the summary level detail. Okay, so those are basically all of the features in the Silver workbook. And again, just to bring you back to the online resources and customer support, you do have a video which basically walks through some of the things that we've walked through today. We've got our user manual, and please utilize our help desk to answer any support questions that you may have.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. That was great. And if you do have additional questions, I'll be sure to get those followed up with following the call today. But now we're going to delve into a little bit more about our platinum and gold level licenses. So we just reviewed the silver, which is listed there at the bottom where you have your interactive spreadsheets. So we're going to have Caitlin walk through our gold and platinum functionality, which will walk through our build a template, our formula assistant, our distribution manager, more interactive spreadsheets, and then toolbar queries, and then as well as our QueryDesigner. So we'll also touch on that for that platinum level license.
Super. Okay, thanks, Emily. Okay, guys, so put on your seatbelts. We're going back for another ride. This is the really exciting part. I talked to so many people at the conference that were using Spreadsheet Server in so many cool ways. So I really love going to the Viewpoint Collaborate conference because it just shows us how many different ways our customers can use this tool outside of the general ledger. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. What you have on the screen here are those different license levels of Spreadsheet Server, and some of the options that you have with each license level. And I heard a really good kind of analogy on these different license levels while we were at the conference by our COO, and that was the platinum level license. Basically what that does is that is the person that's building the road. So the only people that typically have the platinum license are the people that need to actually develop queries outside of the ones that we offer. So they're the person building the road. The gold users are the ones that are driving the car. So these are the guys that are doing all of your report building, building reports from scratch, using the queries designed by the platinum user, and really the ones working in Excel. And then we have our silver licenses, which are our interactive consumers, which as you saw in the silver training, you can certainly do a lot of report building, but the silver licenses are going to allow you to really just stay in what we call the neighborhood of general ledger. So you can only drive your car there. If you want to drive all over the world, you have to have a gold license and a platinum license. So just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought it was a really nice way to kind of visualize the differences between these different license levels. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you again, and we're going to walk through a workbook that I've built that is utilizing a gold and platinum license. So again, my Spreadsheet Server ribbon doesn't change. Well, it does change actually. When you have a gold license, all of the features on the ribbon are going to be available to you. So with the silver license, the only features you have on the Spreadsheet Server ribbon are the drill down features, the recalc features, and the expand and collapse row. When you have a gold license, you'll have a formula assistant, a build a template wizard. You're going to have the ability to build segment lists, distribute reports, and yeah, those are the features that will be available to you. So we're going to go through those today and touch on the platinum as well. So in this report, what I've used is a combination of general ledger queries, like the ones the silver license workbook uses, and those toolbar queries. So if you have at least one platinum license, that user has a QueryDesigner. They also have the ability to unlock our query catalog and download about 70 additional queries that are looking at data outside of the general ledger. They can share those queries with their gold users to use in Excel, and they can also develop new queries, which they can share with the gold users to use in Excel. So in this scenario, let's say we have one platinum user that's downloaded a bunch of these queries for me, and I'm able to build all kinds of cool reports with them, which I'm going to show you in this workbook. So the first thing we're looking at is our P&L. Again, this is using the same query as the silver license, except I got to design this report the way I wanted. So I have some 8 drop-downs here where I set up the report to where I can toggle between cost centers. You can notice that as I change the cost center here, my graph and chart will update. It's just an Excel chart and graph. It's tied to the live numbers, though, so it's going to update as I change the cost center. I've also set up a drop-down for my company, for my period, for my year. And in my report, I wanted to look at the current year period in the first 2 columns. And then I also wanted to look at year-to-date numbers in the second 2 columns and look at a variance to compare those. So really, it just lets you the gold license will allow you to set up the report the way you want it. You can also start from a report that you currently have, and you can build formulas into your existing spreadsheets, which is a really nice feature of the gold license and something that we do in our training. So the 2 reports that I built here with the GL query are the P&L and my rolling 12-month report. So I set up this rolling 12-month report, which was pretty exciting for a lot of our customers. And this just allows me to easily toggle between different months. It's, of course, going to update as I make these changes so I can see that rolling 12. So again, because I have this build a template wizard, I can build the reports the way I want. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a new tab into the spreadsheet and walk you through how that works. So gold users get this nice little build a template wizard. I can click this magic wand. It's not truly magic, but some people think that it's pretty magical. It's going to open up my build a template wizard for me. So in this Build a Template Wizard, I've got a couple different formulas that I can use here on the left side of the screen. These are, the first formula is that same formula that you saw in the silver workbook. And what this gold license is going to allow me to do is either place that formula in a blank spreadsheet or place it in an existing Excel report that you have to make that report live and dynamic. So we're going to start from a blank spreadsheet. Here in the center of the screen, there are some parameters, and these parameters drive that formula. So again, nothing technical here. Things like my balance type, I can look at actual or budget. I would select my year, so we're going to say I want to look at data from 2012. I would select my format. Again, we have the same format, so we just took a look at period, quarter, daily, quarter, year-to-date, life-to-date, or range. I would select my starting period, so we'll say period 4. My account segments, I can place them on the row or the column. So again, going back to that report that I was looking at, if you want to set these up to all tie to a drop-down menu in Excel, you can do that. You can define where they go here. And you also don't have to memorize all of these account segments. If you don't know your company numbers, that's cool. You can just click on this drop-down or this lookup window. It's going to pull up all of those account numbers for you, and I could say, okay, I want to look at company 1, or I can just leave this as an asterisk to look at all companies. Or I can use a range. I have any of the same syntax values that we walked through earlier. So I'm going to leave my company, cost center, and position as a wildcard. And we're going to look at all accounts that begin with 41. That's all I have to do here. And then I hit Insert. Spreadsheet Server is going to populate that formula right into my spreadsheet. So it may not look very impressive at this point, but just wait. We've got our single formula. I can drill down on it to take a look at the detail behind that number. It's going to show me all accounts that begin with 41. And then from here, I'm just using Excel to build out the report. So whether you're in an existing spreadsheet that you've already built or you're starting from scratch, all you have to do is copy that formula into any cell that you'd like to be live. And then you can change the driving parameters. So in the report here, I don't want to look at all accounts that begin with 41 on every line. I might want to see maybe 4,100 on this line, 41,000. Maybe on my second line, I want to see a range. On my third line, I want to look at all accounts that begin with 81. There we go. We've got some numbers here. I want to see, we'll say, all accounts that begin with 6 on my next line. One of the other really neat options that you have is to create what's called a segment list. So you can actually create groups of accounts and give those groups a name that you can reference in the report. So this is really helpful if you're sending reports out to a lot of different people, because you may have a lot of reports out there, and if you needed to change the report, you could actually make the change in one place, and every spreadsheet using that list name would be updated. So if you wanted to build a segment list, this little lightning bolt in your report will allow you to do so. I've got a list set up here for my G&A expenses. And so basically what you do is you give your list a name. I called it G&A, pretty creative. You add values to that list. So I added 3 single accounts in a range. And then if I want to report on that information in my spreadsheet, once I built the list, I can just type in the caret symbol in the list name. And those values are automatically pulled into my spreadsheet. Okay, and then from here, I'm just going to continue to use Excel to build out my report. So at this point, what I'd like to do is just go to my Home tab of Excel and just use some standard Excel functionality. So I'm going to summarize my column. We'll do a little formatting. And then to build that rolling 12-month, all I'd have to do is copy this column across and change the period. So you'll notice as I make these changes, my balances are updating. So having a gold license is going to allow you to start from scratch. This exact exercise that we just did can be utilized essentially the same way if you had an existing report. So you can populate a formula into an existing spreadsheet just as easily as you can start from scratch. And that's something that we do as part of our training. So with the Gold license and the Platinum license, we do come on site for training, and we do a report building workshop. And so in that workshop, we actually ask for you to bring your existing reports to the workshop so we can do what we call bringing those to life with Spreadsheet Server. And we do a very detailed day of report building at the workshop itself. Okay, so we took a look at our Build a Template wizard. We pulled in a formula looking at data coming from the general ledger. But if you have a Platinum user, that user can unlock a catalog of additional queries that the Gold users can use in Excel as well. So if you have at least one Platinum user and you wanted to, let's say, utilize a job cost query or build some other data into this report that was not coming from the general ledger, that Platinum user can download those queries, save them in a shared file location, and then through your Build a Template wizard, you can access them by, instead of selecting your GL formula, you can select this third formula on the list here. And you'll notice when I select this formula, I have a little file that's open, basically a folder that's saying, open me. I have more fun queries to use in here. So you just click on that. It's going to take you to wherever the Platinum user stored your queries. So I've got a folder called Viewpoint. And then you can select from whatever queries the Platinum user has placed in this folder for the Gold users. So I've got lots of queries. I think I've got them all in here. And I'm going to select, let's see here. We'll select our work order query. So just like the GL query, I've got some parameters that I can utilize to narrow down these results. So I can type in things like the date, the customer number, the status, the account. So I'm just going to type in status 1. We're going to look at all accounts. And of course, you likely wouldn't wildcard all of these fields if you're using a non-test database. And then you would just insert that query into the spreadsheet, and alongside your GL formula, it's going to pull in some detail from whatever table you're utilizing. So utilizing a Platinum license in some of those queries are going to allow you to build reports like some of the other options I have in this workbook. So I've got a job dashboard that's looking at job cost and billing status. I've got a job cost hour report that's looking at monthly job cost detail. I've got a revenue dashboard where I'm looking at revenue by job and job manager. I've got an AP report that's looking at vendor detail. I've got a project report and a WIP report that are looking at, again, more non-GL data. So if you have at least one Platinum user and they can unlock that query catalog, you could build a lot of these other types of reports to look at additional information. And so one of the most powerful parts of Spreadsheet Server queries are the ability to do that ad hoc analysis in Excel. So for example, in this WIP report, I have the option of adjusting any of the parameters in this spreadsheet, let's say the customer, for example. So if I wanted to look at Transport of Canada, I could select that, regenerate the query, and it's going to update my results looking at Transport of Canada rather than the Department of Transportation. So you can pull these queries into Excel, and then you have reports that your Gold and Silver users can utilize and make adjustments to right here in the spreadsheet. So WIP reports were certainly of high priority at the conference. We had a lot of folks that were asking about reporting on projects, reporting on accounts payable information. And in that query catalog that's delivered with the Platinum license, like I said, we have about 70 queries that users can utilize to look at all of these other areas. But sometimes you're going to have an area that is unique to your company. You might have some user-defined fields or tables that you'd like to report on. So if you do have those, the Platinum user can build queries as well. So they have a portion called a QueryDesigner. It's the one thing that the Platinum user have that no one else has. And the QueryDesigner allows the Platinum user to adjust any of our Spreadsheet Server queries, the ones that we've built and we've delivered. It also allows that Platinum user to build brand new queries from scratch. So I'm going to open it up. I'm not going to go into much depth here with the QueryDesigner, but if you would like a demonstration of QueryDesigner after this, we can certainly go into it. The reason we don't go into much depth on these webinars is because most people are not going to end up using this piece of the puzzle. But I do like to just open up a query just so if you would be a Platinum user, you can kind of see how it's set up. So this is the only piece that the Platinum users have that the Gold users don't. It allows them to see what tables the query is accessing, add additional tables if necessary. It allows them to see what fields the query is utilizing, add additional fields. You'll notice when I add fields, it's actually building the SQL statement for me. That's my favorite part, so you don't have to be an expert in writing SQL code to use it. It does build the queries for you. You can build them yourself if you want to turn off the auto-generate, or you can copy and paste SQL into the QueryDesigner. And then you can add as many parameters as you'd like to a query. So again, one of the things that makes our QueryDesigner unique is what we call these smart parameters. And these are the options that your end user will have in Excel to utilize the query. So going back to my spreadsheet, if I go back to, let's say, that WIP report, in this report, I can adjust 8 different things in the report which will deliver new results into my spreadsheet. And so those 8 things are what we call smart parameters, and your query designers can add new parameters to any of our queries if one of the queries doesn't have a parameter that you'd like today. So again, that's all on QueryDesigner for today. Just wanted to show you so you know that it's there. That is not a part of the Gold license. That is only a part of the Platinum license. The Gold users are working in Excel all day long. So you're just utilizing those spreadsheets, utilizing those queries and building these cool spreadsheets. One other piece that we wanted to talk about today that is unique to the Gold and Platinum license is the Distribution Manager. So once you build all these amazing reports, Distribution Manager is going to allow you to automate the sending of these reports out to anyone and everyone that needs to see them in your organization, whether they are a Spreadsheet Server user or not. So once I have all these reports and I've got all of my reports saved in this one nice spreadsheet, I can then send them out by going to my Distribution Manager and hitting Create New Control Sheet. That's going to add a new tab to my workbook and give me this promptable window where I can identify first how I'd like to send it out. So I can email reports, I can save them to a shared file location, I can print reports, I can do a combination of these 3 options if I'd like. So we're just going to select email to get started. I use Outlook, so this is going to link up with my Outlook address book. We'll select David as our first recipient and click OK. And then I will compose the email just like I would in Outlook today. I have some password protection options I can utilize. I can send the file in multiple file types, Excel, CSV, HTML, PDF, or Word. I can modify the report based on who I'm sending it to. So let's say David doesn't have a license of Spreadsheet Server, but he needs this P&L for Cost Center 500 every month. Well, that's easy. All I have to do is use this Modify Cells option, which will allow me to say, for David, I want you, upon distribution, to modify the P&L. I want to modify cell M16, which holds the value for the cost center, and I'm going to change this value to 500. So what this will do at the time of distribution is push this value into cell M16, which will convert the report to look at cost center 500. Now, David doesn't need all of these reports, so I'm going to remove these. We'll just clear them all out. And we'll say David really just needs the P&L and the P&L drill down report. So I'm just going to send him those 2 reports. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that line out to Excel. Now I've got a couple other folks that I want to send to. So I'm going to go back to my address book and I'm going to say, okay, I also want to send this to Corey Beer. We'll say Corey needs the same report but for a different cost center. So I'm just going to change the cost center and push another line out to Excel. And then for my last recipient, we'll say instead of sending via email, I want to push out to a shared file location. So I'm going to go out to my Y drive, and I'm going to push this into Sherry's folder. We'll say for Sherry, she's not on the finance team. She does WIP reporting only, so I'm going to send her my WIP report and push that line out to Excel. So I built my distribution list. I'm sending to these 4 people every month. They are not Spreadsheet Server users, so I'm sending them static reports. But all I have to do at this point to send them their reports is hit distribute. So when I hit distribute, everyone receives the most recent up-to-date copy of their report. And if this is too difficult, we can make it even easier by scheduling the distribution. So I can use the profile scheduler. And this profile scheduler is going to allow me to set this up on an automated schedule. So if I am so busy that I cannot hit that button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up to go out automatically for me. So we're going to schedule it. We're going to say I want it to go out every Tuesday. I'm going to send it out at 1 p.m., and it's going to go out weekly on Tuesday. So at this point, I don't have to do anything. If I am running late from lunch, or maybe I took a longer lunch, I won't have to worry about my reports going out at 1 o'clock because they're going to run for me. Once I hit that run button, they're going to go out every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So the scheduling feature can be very, very helpful when you're sending out reports. We have clients like Trader Joe's that send reports out to 400 stores on a monthly basis, all from a single spreadsheet. This is a process that took them 2 weeks prior to using Spreadsheet Server, and now it goes out automatically. So the distribution manager can be a really useful part of Spreadsheet Server to get reports out. It can also help you think about who needs a license of Spreadsheet Server versus who needs a static report from distribution manager. Okay, so those are the basic features of the Platinum and Gold license. We're back at the license levels of Spreadsheet Server just so you guys can get a little peek at that again, take a look at those different license types. And then at this point, I think I will pass that back over to you, Emily.
Okay, great. Thank you, Caitlin. That was wonderful. I hope everybody got some good information out of the presentation today. But if anybody's interested in learning more about the functionality beyond your 2 free silver licenses or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And we also have a ton of referenceable customers, and this is just a small sampling of some of our folks who have actually talked about Spreadsheet Server and gone on the record and said Spreadsheet Server, they no longer have to rely on IT department to extract data from their ERP. And then Jennifer Funk at Brinkman, she said, I would recommend Spreadsheet Server to someone looking for assistance accessing the reporting on viewpoint data. So that just speaks to how much our customers love our product. And if you want to discuss pricing or anything along those lines, my contact information is down below. Or if you are having any technical issues with your silver licenses, please feel free to reach out to our help desk. They're happy to assist you, and that's what we're here for. We want these licenses to work for you. So, and if any questions that you submitted today, I'll be sure to follow up with you following the call. But look forward to hearing everybody's feedback, and everybody have a great day.